Thank you for joining us on the lightattheend.com podcast. Lightattheend.com is a resource for those who want to learn more about end-of-life topics but don't know where to start. I'm Kevin Burke, and I'm joined today by Aquilino Soriano, who is a licensed acupuncturist here in San Diego, who has been practicing since '97, I think. Ak, great to see you again, and thank you for being here to talk through the potential benefits and applications of acupuncture for those who, well, really in any stage of their life, but also focusing on people who may have life-limiting diagnoses or pain.
Yeah, thank you, Kevin. I'm glad to be here and talk about this subject. And it's something that I have dealt with through the years of practice of assisting people in their transition or even the people around them too at the same time.
Great. Why don't you start by introducing yourself and explaining how you got into acupuncture?
Acupuncture was, I beg not to say accident, but there are no accidents in life. We're all kind of led to where we need to be. It was a big transition in my life of I was already in my 40s. I basically was playing in a band in nightclubs and painting houses during the day with hopes of finding some kind of new career to take me in a more helpful way to society.
Hmm.
And also into my own soul because I was kind of lost at the time. I was reeling from a divorce, feeling guilty, and I had young kids still back then. So it was all a path of healing for
Okay.
me. I used to live in Dana Point, and I saw that there was a massage school in San Diego. And by the time I got through and I started doing a lot of massage, I was like, I don't know if I have the energy to do this a lot. Anytime you're dealing with people energetically, there's always an exchange.
Hmm.
And some people, their energy can be pretty heavy and you take it on. I started exploring the possibilities of going into become a physical therapist and going to Long Beach State. And I started taking the prereqs. And then I met somebody in that was taking the same prerequisites, but they were going to come down here to Pacific College and study acupuncture. And so I drove down here, went in the office. It wasn't a very impressive place, but when I walked in, I felt something is right about this. The energy started flowing better
Hmm.
in me. When I got in that classroom, my first class, I had the most dynamic teacher, the most charismatic guy. His name was Alex Taberry, and he's a legend
Hmm.
in San Diego and in the acupuncture world. I would qualify him as the Jimi Hendrix of the acupuncture world.
Wow, that's
And
high
when
praise.
he spoke, the first time he spoke, I sat in his classroom. I could just feel my head spinning and something changing within me, and found that I found my home there and the place and the modality that was going to help me, my own soul, and I would be able to help other people too. I felt like it really helped me be a better person,
Hmm.
and that way I could be a better person for everybody else.
So, for people who aren't familiar with acupuncture, can you just describe the practice a little bit?
Acupuncture is an ancient modality. Simply put, it is something that creates circulation again. Usually, when somebody comes in, it could be from low back pain to headaches, physical things, to food sensitivities. It could be any of those things. And so, when that happens, there's a blockage of energy in certain areas. And the acupuncture points are able to access and open those areas again, whether it's to relax the muscles, get them functioning at normal length again, or to stop your constipation, or to deal with migraine headaches. It just opens. It's like having plumbing that's like stuck somewhere, and the acupuncture just like gets the flow going again.
Is there anything, I don't want to ask like a leading question here, so feel free to reframe this, but is there anything physical that acupuncture can't affect?
There are some things that have just been set in stone in a person's body for almost a lifetime,
Mm-hmm.
and so you can get energy moving, but it takes a lot more the more chronic the problem is.
Okay.
If you hadn't paid attention to your car, let's say you had a Maserati and you just drove it 150,000 miles and just didn't do anything to it, it would take a lot of repair to get it so that it has that same get up and go.
Okay. That's a good analogy.
Kevin, you have a Maserati.
Do I?
So, yes, you do.
It isn't in my garage.
Just take care of it. It's the best gift that you have in this life is this body.
I think what I'm hearing you say, please correct me if I'm wrong, is that acupuncture is not going to be a cure all for everything. However, it can support improvements and circulation, as you put it, in a number of different areas that can be helpful. So, if you have cancer of some sort, let's say, acupuncture is probably not going to cure that cancer, but it can provide relief to a person who is suffering. Is that a fair assessment?
I've seen miracles in my life, and wonderful things, but then at the same time, I've had cancer patients that I was like a supplement for
Mm-hmm.
pain, and just kind of emotional support for them. For a normal, healthy person, I always think about that I'm helping build their immune function.
Mm.
Where the immune function is like really broken down, I'm not sure what I can do, but I know I can do something.
Okay, so going back to what acupuncture is, or how you describe it. You describe it as essentially you supporting the system of a person, and not literally just the circulatory system, but anything to keep.
Lymphatic, anything that needs to move.
Okay, and so how do the needles, how do they enable that?
There's like 360 some regular points along these lines called meridians in the body, and each meridian is connected to an organ. And this is just from the basic Chinese perspective. And each has a season and each has a flavor. And there's so many things connected with each of these meridians. It's like a wheel. They create this balance in your body of that energy flowing. And when, let's say, the liver energy is toxic, it really affects the digestive or the earth. So that what I'm trying to do with those points and with those meridians is to get that there's this normal interaction between all of the elements. These points along these meridians, they're almost like they have like their own intrinsic value. Like there's a point on here on your wrist that's good for nausea. But then you put that with another point on the foot and it opens up things in your epigastrium, in your digestive area. That combination of points work synergistically
Oh,
together.
interesting. So it's not just individual points. There is a method to the madness
Yeah,
of
there's
which
point
ones to
formulas
use.
for anything. just about anything.
Are the needles essentially serving as conductors for the energy then?
Yeah, well, they say that the meridians run in the connective tissue, and the connective tissue is the matrix. It's that it's that communication in your body, so that you hit a point here, and it helps with frontal headaches. You've heard of phantom limb
Hmm.
syndrome, where
Sure.
where a vet or somebody with an amputation has pain where there's no limb anymore.
Hmm.
I can treat the opposite limb and eliminate that phantom pain just because of the matrix of the body.
Interesting. So, in your experience, how is treating people with life limiting diagnoses? Does it differ from the way that you would treat anyone for anything else?
Somebody that has a tumor or something, I might treat really locally where that tumor is to help disperse it. But if they're at that stage where they're like really frail, I just do really light acupuncture and concentrate on things that help them with any pain or discomfort they might have.
Hmm.
Acupuncture is like spiritual, physical, and mental, all those aspects. And when I treat somebody even for low back pain, I see their whole demeanor change. There's like an endorphin release when you put the needles in.
Hmm.
And that helps you to get into that relaxed healing state, so that when a person is stressing about their pain and they know that they're probably going to die soon, this just helps soothe them and ease them, get them into a peaceful place.
Hmm. Are there other things that you do beyond the points and the needles? I'd love for you to explain kind of the supplemental techniques that you utilize that aren't just needles in energy points.
I always insist that we do some relaxing massage. And then at the same time, we can do cupping, what's called cupping with the glass cups, and you put alcohol in a cotton ball and you hold it in forceps and you light that, and then you stick it in the cup, which creates a vacuum, and then it seals on the surface of the skin. And that helps open up areas too. It helps bring toxins to the surface. It's really good for colds and flus. Other techniques that are similar to cupping are scraping. And that's something that when Vietnamese immigrants, or refugees came over after the war, the kids would go to school and they'd have these purple marks on their chest. And that was from the parent taking a coin and scraping the surface to help open up their lungs when they had colds. And, the school system thought this was child abuse, but it was later revealed that this is part of their medicine. That's how
Mm.
they get toxins out of the body and help with childhood flus. And
Oh,
and
interesting.
speaking of children and energy, children, it doesn't take a lot to move stuff. The older we get, the more garbage we take on, and then it gets harder to move that same energy.
Hmm.
And so I guess in terms of end of life, everybody's letting go of material things, of emotional things, and all that to make their transition lighter. And I think that's one of the things I can really help with.
Do you feel like you were able to help them, whether it was easing their pain, helping them kind of spiritually get to a healthier place before they passed?
I believe so. They always seem more than appreciative of what the treatments were doing for them. Yeah.
Mm. Were you ever seeing anybody remotely, or at the point that people got to that stage, were they not saying, I really need help, but I don't even think I can get into the facility?
It's part of your training at the acupuncture school. That's one of your options, is to go to hospice and treat people there.
Oh, okay. So
Uh,
specifically hospice
yes.
focused acupuncture.
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
interesting. That's great. When you've had patients with terminal illnesses, what sort of symptoms or challenges are you able to help manage? Pain, nausea, insomnia, anxiety, those sorts of things.
Yeah, and I think that like it helps them to bounce back from their chemo treatments,
Okay.
like it's really helpful with that because those things just tear people up,
Hmm.
and I've had people go through successful chemo treatments too, but it does help like make them to get through it.
Mm, interesting.
I can feel where a person's energy is at when they walk into the room.
Mm.
That's the frequency, that's energy.
I wonder what the connection is or crossover with your lifelong love of music and playing music, and obviously that's all frequencies and collections of notes that are able to make a person feel a certain way. So I have to think that there's some crossover there.
Yeah. And I always look at notes as being like acupuncture points, and certain
Hmm.
good combination of notes is good for your soul and your body
Hmm.
too, because it makes you want to move.
Hmm.
And that's the point of acupuncture, is I want to make you move, whether it's energetically or just make your body feel well enough to move.
Hmm. So, Ak, you said that sometimes when people come into the room, you're able to feel their energy right off. If somebody didn't tell you specifically what was ailing them, are there kind of general places that you would start? Do you need them to be able to express it?
Usually I want them to express it. In some ways I can sense where to go. Sometimes I feel like I need to like disarm them emotionally. They're already so stressed that they just need to shut down for a second. So then I'll just do some relaxing points in the beginning so that they can have some kind of clarity before we speak about what we really want to address.
Mm. Again, bringing it back to people that you have treated who are in sort of the later stages or end stages of life. Are there things that you've suggested or made recommendations to, okay, we should do acupuncture and there are these other things that you might want to explore to help you through this transition or this time or this pain?
Yeah, I would recommend, some kind of meditative practice, or if they can move, to do qigong, tai chi, whatever they're able to handle.
Mm.
On qigong, you can just like work on yourself and you can just sit and not have a lot of movement. So that might be the best thing. Simple things like Epsom salt baths, or like castor oil packs with heat on the areas that are affected, to help try to pull the toxins out of their system.
Is acupuncture safe for people who are in hospice care or very physically frail? Can it still be used effectively and safely?
Absolutely. And there are different styles of acupuncture. The Chinese tend to go deeper and like really manipulate the needles to get the energy going. There are Japanese techniques where you just take the needle and you just touch the point on the surface of the skin and manipulate it there. So there's acupuncture for wherever you're at in life. And there's other ways to stimulate the points. There's a herb called moxa, and it comes in sticks. And you light the moxa stick, and you just heat up around the point, and that helps. That's really a gentle way of moving moving the energy too. Just stay at that point for a while, and then you go to the next point until they feel it fairly well, and then you can do your whole point combination that you were going to do just with the heat,
Oh, so
to help.
so the moxa then is serving as kind of a very localized heating pad, for a particular point or points.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. With that heat stimulating the point, it moves the energy faster.
How do you approach patients or families that may be skeptical about acupuncture?
I just tell them you do not have to believe in acupuncture. You just need to be open to it. That's all. The reason why I know that you don't have to believe in acupuncture is because I've treated animals before,
Mm-hmm.
and they don't know what you're doing, but they feel better, and they have no expectations one way or the other.
That's a great point. I didn't even consider that. There's real success to be had there, whether or not you have a spiritual affinity toward, energy
Exactly.
healing.
There's no faith necessary. You just have to just be open to try it. That first teacher I was telling you about that just blew my mind when I first walked in the classroom. He told me a story, because I just like was getting overwhelmed with the whole idea and stuff that I had to learn. And he said, I went to my master, my teacher, and I said, Teacher, I'm never going to be as great as you are. And his teacher told him, he said, if you can acupuncture this one point, just one point, and you can do that one point really well, you will do a lot of good in the world. I think that this is like, especially what you're doing with these podcasts, which are amazing, that you're spreading this kind of word, is that your intention has so much to do with how you affect people.
That's good food for thought, I appreciate you pointing that out. It just was striking me that we talked about friends and families of people who are end of life, but then there's also caregivers, and sometimes that's the family and sometimes it's not. That creates a tremendous amount of stress and blockage, and again, that's a very sort of susceptible population that would need help.
Yeah, and I'm in that generation where we're dropping like flies, the famous people and musicians and everybody you just hear about every day, that the boomers are going away. And one thing that's helped with the longevity of a lot of boomers is that they've turned to modalities like this. They have a healthier lifestyle. Obviously, medicine and technology has really helped, but it seems as a generation we've been pretty open to this kind of thing.
Are there other kind of points or topics that you think we ought to cover, particularly as it pertains to end of life care and how acupuncture can help?
Well, I would just say to anybody who's contemplating it, go find an acupuncturist that you might, resonate with, talk to them, and see how you feel. Because I feel like acupuncture is such a personal medicine. It's not like going to ear, nose, and throat guy, where something that goes so deep as acupuncture, you want to find a person
Who you vibe with?
you vibe with.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It's funny because I was thinking as you said that acupuncture is a form of therapy. The first therapist, psychologist, psychiatrist, whoever that you see, you may not get on with them, and you may think this just isn't the person for me, or they're not asking the right questions, or they're not approaching this the right way, or I don't like their energy, whatever it is. And so unlike the ear, nose, and throat person that you say, starting a relationship with someone in a healing field like this probably can take more attempts and more exploration to find the right person who you feel like you are in synergy with, and therefore able to open yourself up to healing, I suppose.
Yeah, because you're acupuncturist, or at least from my viewpoint, I really care and I want to, assist a person any way I can. If people are in that stage of life and they can't afford much, I don't care. If I could actually help you, just please come in. That's the way. If I feel like I'm really able to be a good match for them, I will open my arms to them.
All right, Ak. Well, thank you so much for helping to explain this and explore this to anyone who is a podcast watcher or listener who might be considering acupuncture or is already getting benefits out of it. It's good to know that there are practical applications to it for people who are struggling or in pain with life-limiting illnesses or situations. That concludes this episode of the lightattheend.com podcast. Before you go, remember to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. To discuss anything we covered or didn't cover on this episode's topic, leave a comment for me or our guest. And if you have an idea for a future podcast episode or someone you'd like to connect us with, please get in touch with us for that as well. For more end-of-life topics, guides, and resources, visit lightattheend.com. And for those who wish to support what we're doing, visit us on Patreon. There will be a link in the show description and on our website. Until next time, take care of yourselves and those around you. Bye for now.